A good writer must also be a good reader. So, fellow writers, what are you reading these days, and what lessons can you learn from it to apply to your own writing? It's Sam with another video for you, a video review. I'll tell you my answer to that question in just a moment. And yes, I am pre-recording this one. You guys know I usually do these live just because I like the interaction that we get sometimes. But this Friday I'm going to be traveling. Actually, my grandma is not doing well. She's at the end of her life, and we're going to be up there with her visiting family for a few days, possibly longer. Anyway, it's touch and go at this point. So anyway, what I'm saying is I'm pre-recording this, recording it on Monday, the President's Day right now, although I won't release it till Friday, because I usually post my videos on Friday. Anyway, wanted to tell you about what I've been reading lately and all that stuff, and so without further ado, here it is. You can probably see it in the background. My most recent fiction read. Yes, it's another Star Wars book. This is Star Wars: The Princess and the Scoundrel by Beth Revis. It's a new Star Wars novel that came out just last year. As the title suggests, it is about the princess, Leia, and the scoundrel, Han Solo. It's their love story, their marriage and their honeymoon in canon, in Disney's new canon. There was an older version of this story in what is now considered the expanded universe, the Legends books. It was called The Courtship of Princess Leia by Dave Wolverton, and I read that one like probably 15 years ago when I was in high school or something. But this one is the version in the new canon, and it's by Beth Revis. I'm not familiar with her work. I looked her up, and she writes romance a lot, which I don't typically read romance as a genre specifically, but when it's in my genre or in my my favorite fandoms, I'm all for some good romance. And I'm not saying it's all bad or anything. It's just it's not my thing to read a novel that is solely romance usually, unless maybe it's classic literature. But anyway, I read this one, The Princess and the Scoundrel. Really liked it. I'll tell you about it. It picks up right after Return of the Jedi. So if you've never read a Star Wars novel before, but you're a Star Wars fan and you know the movies, I'd say this is a good standalone one to start with. I mean, they get married like right after the Battle of Endor, so right after the end of Return of the Jedi. Like they're still on Endor, figuring everything out, celebrating the defeat of the Empire, and basically Han asks Leia to marry him, and they end up holding a ceremony right there on Endor. But of course, the galaxy is in turmoil. I mean, it always is, but because of the shift in leadership and all the holes left by the Empire's defeat, there's chaos everywhere, and the New Republic is trying to establish itself, and Leia has political duties because she's the face of the rebellion, or the New Republic, whatever you want to call it now. And she's like, can I even get away to have a moment for myself? Not saying she is having trouble with that. She's like, she won't even let herself do that. Is a thing. Like she's afraid to take a honeymoon because the galaxy needs her, and Han wants to spend time with his new wife and all that stuff. And he has duties to the rebellion too. Of course he's not as much of the dedicated whatever soldier or dedicated to the cause as she is. But he's in with these people now, and for better or for worse, and he'll do what he needs to do, but he wants to spend time with his wife and just have a normal, or whatever passes for normal for him, time and honeymoon. So as you can imagine, there's all these antics that come up, antics and problems and everything. I really liked it. Like I said, this writer understands the characters of Han and Leia. I mean, I know they're famous characters, obviously, and I've read a lot of Star Wars books and comics by now, so I feel like I know them pretty well. And I mean, most of us do too, because we've seen the movies and everything. But just with the existence of an expanding universe that has all this franchise media now, it occurs to me, I mean, a couple decades ago, all we knew about these characters was 3 movies, which is still a lot, but it's only at most 6, 7, 8 hours of screen time. It's not we've only seen certain snippets of their lives. Now that we have books and comics and movies and everything, I feel like every aspect of their lives have been recorded. So they have to be fairly consistent, and we know these characters well. At least if you read them and followed them a lot, like I have. So I was like, this author gets the characters. She goes into the detail. I mean, she gets details of the canon. She picks up on things that I wouldn't have thought of that fit together with other movies. She gets inside their thoughts and such, and just their feelings. You know, these are sometimes larger than life characters. Like, you know, it's Han Solo, it's Leia. They're these iconic characters from movies that came out first 40, 50 years ago. But now they're like, this is their love story, and they have to be human in a love story. And the author does well at humanizing them, I thought. Again, I'm not a romance writer, although my superhero story does have a good bit of romance in it. So I guess in a secondary roundabout way, I am a romance writer. So I don't really know the ins and outs of the genre. I don't know what the good advice is per se, but she writes lines that evoke emotion. About just how they feel for each other and how they want to kiss each other, things like that. This is also a plus in my opinion. She doesn't. She doesn't get into smut. I know some people are into that, and I'm not. There are times when she implies, like, obviously, like that they want to do things together, and obviously they're newly married. You can guess what they're doing, but she doesn't go into detail at all, which I'm glad for. It's the implication is there, but it's clean. But I was reading some of these things, and just normally one time, and I was like, I want to go kiss my wife now because I feel romantic and I want to kiss my wife. So it was good at evoking emotion in the reader. What I also liked about it, like for much of the book, I didn't know whether this is could be good or bad. I mean, you have your opinion on this. I liked it for most of this time. For much of the book, I didn't know what the main plot was other than their romance. Like, I figured there would be, on the honeymoon they get into some kind of trouble, and there'd be like an imperial battle or some kind of villain in the end. And yes, there was, but that plot didn't pick up till about 200 pages in. The first large sections, the first several chapters, 200 pages or whatever, it's largely small episodes. It's about them on Endor planning the wedding and then having the wedding, and then they go on a honeymoon, somewhat reluctantly, because again, there's always complications around that, and there's little slight antics on the cruise ship they're on the honeymoon. But I'm like, it's still mostly about their relationship and just these small episodes. There's not an overarching villain or a plot or like an overarching like galactic evil plot. There is toward the end or toward the third act, I guess. So if you like that kind of thing too, it picks up. So some of you might be like, well, why would I read 200 pages without a plot? I shouldn't say it doesn't have a plot, but the plot is them. But the plot is these two. And then in the end, toward the final act, it shifts a little bit to like a typical Star Wars war plot. But really, I'd say for most of the book, these two are center stage, and the imperial politics are in the background, which I like. I mean, again, I wouldn't want that for every single Star Wars novel, but I've read a lot of them, and I've had enough. I've had plenty of Star Wars war stories if I want those. So for a love story like this one, I wanted it to be a love story, and it really is. So that was cool, I thought. If you want to focus on these characters, if you want like a deep dive into their romance, their love story, their minds and hearts, this is a good place to do it. Again, there's also imperial trouble that comes up. There always is, of course, but much of the book doesn't focus on that. So it really is about Han and Leia. Again, if you're a Star Wars fan and you've never read a Star Wars book and you want to get into it, this is a great place to pick up. If you're a romance fan, a sci-fi fan, any combination of the above, I'd recommend it. For writing advice or writing takeaways, I guess I'd say just if you have a central romance in your story, like a male and female lead, like many of us do, I do, give them a chance to just have a romance without too many other distractions. And yes, I know if you're writing sci-fi romance or action romance or whatever, like I am, you have to get them in front of a villain eventually. And yes, there's always some kind of conflict that will disrupt their romance, but give them at least a few chapters, if not like a longer story or a short story or something like that, to just have a romance. And maybe, sure, there's a little conflict along the way, and sometimes the little conflict can be more personal and more emotional than the bigger external conflict. But give them time to just have a romance and play with those characters that way. I think you'll find a lot of good things and a lot of fun stories or chapters or whatever can come of that. So that's my advice for now. Thanks for listening and watching. I'm going to sign off now, but go read this book. It was a really good book. I recommend it to, again, Star Wars fans, sci-fi fans, romance fans, whoever, and hope you enjoy it too, like I did. Thanks for watching and listening for now, and until next time, may the Force be with you. Bye.